Welcome to the 18th edition of the Artist Soul. My name is AVIS. For those of you who are new, thank you for joining us. And the show always starts on time at 7 o'clock and ends on time at 8:29 p.m. So you have the rest of your Saturday evening to yourself. And we really appreciate your joining us for this very, very beautiful conversation that I am eagerly looking forward to. But before that, let me tell you a little bit about this space, Wandering Artist. Wandering Artist has been set up by an artist herself, Kaveri Purna, who will be joining us very shortly. And her vision is that artists, art lovers, seekers, teachers come together, create art, and share ways in which they can express their art. So multiple art forms are taught here, learned here, and the artists and art lovers have been enjoying this very beautiful, intimate space over the last couple of years. In January 2015, Vani, my wife, and I were invited by Kaveri to curate and host a series of conversations with artists. And that's why we are here today, and this is the 18th edition of this series. Thank you so much. A little bit about Vani and me and why we do this. For us, this is our life's purpose. We wake up every day to inspire happiness. Now, why do we wake up every day to inspire happiness? It's primarily because we awakened to the opportunity to be happy despite our circumstances. Last 10 years in our life have been very, very, very traumatic on the material front, on the financial front. We are going through a bankruptcy. We're still dealing with a huge crisis financially in our life. But in that dark space, there was an awakening. In that dark space, the light of happiness shone in our lives. And that led us to do multiple things. The first thing I did was, when things are not going your way, you feel that you're completely useless. Success என்பது உலக டெஃபினிஷன் வழியாக பார்க்கும்போது ஒரு கடனில் இருக்கிற ஒரு குடும்பம் வந்து அந்த கடனை மீட்டு கொடுத்தாதான் சக்ஸஸ்ன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. So in a way, success was elusive and continues to be elusive. But அந்த நேரத்தில் we started feeling completely worthless, useless. And we asked ourselves, we are bankrupt from a financial point of view, but we're not bankrupt here. We're not bankrupt here. What can we do to be useful? And that's how I went and wrote a book called Fall Like a Rose Petal, which was published in 2014. And the book, people started inviting me to deliver talks. And slowly, we discovered that there was a community of people out there who are dealing with their own life situations, both by way of challenges and opportunities, and who have all learned how to be happy with what they have. And we started curating and hosting in a non-commercial manner 4 conversations across the city of Chennai. இதை நாங்கள் செய்யும்போது, please keep your mobile phones on silent or switched off mode. இதை நாங்கள் செய்யும்போது எங்களுக்கு என்ன பயன்னாக்கா, I am as a curator, as a host, I am a student. I get to learn so many perspectives from around me. And audience என்ன பயன்னாக்கா, they get to take away perspectives that are probably locked up in the hearts of people. And that is the beauty of this entire process. And that's why I say we wake up every morning to inspire happiness. We do 4 conversations, and the Artist Soul is one of them. Artist Soul began with Viku Vinayak Ram in January 2015, and right up to June 2018, we had done 17 conversations. Our 17th guest was Shrikala Bharat, the acclaimed dancer. And we have not limited our definition of artists to performing artists or visual artists. Even an author is an artist, a poet is an artist, and a photographer is an artist. So we celebrate all forms of art, and we're looking for interesting, inspiring stories in this conversation series. On the series today, we are greatly blessed, particularly me, because I'm going to be in conversation with a very celebrated poet that you all love, and that's why many of you are here, which is Isaikkavi Ramanan. Thank you so much for that rousing reception for Ramanan. Osho enna sollirukkarnaka, he says poetry is magic. He says when the whole descends into the part, when the ocean disappears into the dewdrop, poetry happens. Poetry is magic, poetry is a miracle. And to me, therefore, a poet is a miracle maker. Because அந்த வாழ்க்கையுடைய அனுபவங்களை ஒரு ரசிக்கக்கூடிய ஒரு அளவில், ஒரு அவுன்ஸில், ஓகே, கொடுக்கணும்னா அதுக்கு ஒரு மிரக்கல்ங்கிற பேர் தான் சொல்ல முடியும். Because you're taking an entire experience and putting it into a word, into a phrase, into a verse. And அது இசைக்கவி ரமணன் ரொம்ப வருடங்களாக, I'm amazed with his body of work, 50 years. He started at the age of 17. This is his 5th decade as a poet. So to be in conversation with him, எனக்கு சுத்தமா அருகதையே கிடையாது. Let me tell you that. There is no locus standi I have for 2 reasons. One, நான் poet கிடையாது. என்னால அவர் poetry-ய யாராவது சொல்லி கொடுத்தா ரசிக்க முடியுமே தவிர படிக்க முடியாது. ஓகே, பல விஷயங்கள்ல நான் ஞான சூன்யம், அது தமிழ்ல படிக்க முடியாத ஒரு ஞான சூன்யம் நான். So I can't claim to be sitting next to him and be in conversation with him. But why, if I can't read his work, if I can't celebrate the man and his miracle-making stature, why am I in conversation with him today? What drew me to him? That's an interesting story. And let me introduce him that way to all of you. Because Isaikkavi Ramanan யாருன்னு யாருக்கும் சொல்ல தேவையில்லை. என்னை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் இசைக்கவி ரமணன் யாருன்னு சொன்னேன்னாக்கா அதில் ஒரு மீனிங் எனக்கு இருக்கும். அவர் பக்கத்தில் ஒருத்தர் உட்காந்துருக்காரு, a man who believes that more than popularity, familiarity is important. கவிதாலயா கிருஷ்ணன். அவரை நாங்கள் என்னோட பிளிஸ் கேச்சருங்கிற ப்ரோக்ராமுக்கு அழைப்பு கொடுக்கறதுக்காக ஒரு மீட்டிங் பண்ணினோம். கவிதாலயா கிருஷ்ணன் இன்ஜினியர் டர்ன்ட் ஆக்டர், சிந்து பைரவி படம் டிரைவராக ரொம்ப நல்லா நடித்தார். தீஸ் ஆர் ஆல் தி கிரைட்டீரியா தட் ட்ரூ அஸ் டு ஹிம். அந்த மீட்டிங்கில் அவர் அரை மணி நேரம் இசைக்கவி ரமணனை பற்றி பேசினார். சார் உங்களை கூப்பிட்டுருக்கோம் சார், உங்களை தான் கூப்பிடுறோம் சார். ஏவிஎஸ் வாணி, யூ ஷுட் பி காலிங் இசைக்கவி ரமணன் ஃபார் யுவர் ப்ரோக்ராம், நாட் மீ. அப்போவே இந்த பேர் வந்து ஒரு ஒரு அழகான ஒரு 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 சிடக்ஷனாக இருந்தது எனக்கு. இசைக்கவி ரமணன், the coinage is very beautiful, the word sounds very beautiful, but sorry, no thanks. நான் எனக்குள்ளேயே சொல்லிட்டேன், ஏன்னா தமிழ் படிக்க வராத, without experiencing the artist, how can I invite him to a conversation? அப்படியே it kept lying at the back burner of my memory. But Isaikkavi Ramanan is a difficult name to forget. You can't forget so easily. Okay? So, அப்படியே அது இருந்துட்டே இருந்தது. And then Bharadwaj Raman, another guest over here today, came into our lives. As a bliss catcher, I invited him to be my guest in my bliss catcher show again. And Bharadwaj said, AVIS Viswanathan, I am doing this interesting play called Bharati Yaar. Will you come for it? I have composed the music for it. And we walk into that play, Bharati Yaar, and the title intrigued me because எனக்குள்ளேயே இருந்த ஒரு கேள்வி, who is the real Bharati? And I hoped, because of the title of the play, that question will be answered. But many things were answered that day for me. We were at this RR Sabha, packed auditorium. And I was telling Vani, because we do conversations, we do programs, and we know how difficult it is to draw an audience. And packed audience, no place to sit, no place to stand. And the play opened. The person who performed as Bharadiyar blew our minds, not with his oratory alone, not with the theatrics alone, but there was a soul connect for me, because I felt I was experiencing Bharadiyar. That was what was happening to me. And every song was, I'm getting goosebumps as I'm saying this, okay? Every song that I had heard and experienced at a kind of audio level was now visual in front of me. The story of the song was visual in front of me. And when the credits were announced, that's when I realized that it was Isaikkavi Ramanan who had played the role of Bharadiyar. Supposing na auto பிடிக்கிறதுக்கு லேட் ஆகுது, சீக்கிரமா கிளம்பிடலாம் அப்படின்னு நான் எழுந்து வந்திருந்தேன்னு வெச்சுக்கோங்க, இன்னைக்கு இந்த கான்வர்சேஷன் நடந்திருக்குமான்னு எனக்கு டவுட். எங்களால எழுந்து வர முடியல, ஏன்னா the hall was packed. We had to wait in a single file to get out. In that time, Bharadwaj or somebody was beginning to announce the credits, and they were calling the artist to stage, and they said Isaikkavi Ramanan. And that's when I connected Kavithalaya Krishnan extolling the virtues of this man and the performance of Bharati in Bharadiyar. And that's when I said, I told Vani, hey mom, listen, I think we need to meet this gentleman. And very humbly, on his own, the conversation, he came to the Bliss Catcher conversation that I had with Bharadwaj Raman at Odyssey bookstore, and Ramanan walked up to me and said, it was a very nice program, AVIS. My name is Ramanan. I said, sir, Ningla, thank you so much for coming to my show. I'd like to have a meeting with you. And in that meeting, we had a separate meeting over coffee. I invited him to be part of this artist soul conversation. In that meeting, I noticed something which I experienced in RR Sabha. RR Sabha, he was on stage, and Vani and I were sitting almost at the last row on the ground floor. And we could not see his eyes from where we were sitting. We can't look into somebody's eyes at that distance. But there was some magnificent radiance from that distance. And I felt that same radiance over coffee with him, at that close proximity, sitting across the table. And I asked him, sir, you're a poet, author, singer, composer, theater artist, TV show host. இத்தனை ஐடென்டிட்டிஸ் இருக்கே உங்களுக்கு, இத்தனை திறமைகள் இருக்கே, உங்களை எப்படின்னு நாங்கள் வர்ணிக்கிறது? And he said, I am a seeker. I am a seeker. And I said, you are an eternal seeker. Because அந்த seeking இருந்தாதான் அந்த எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு அந்த கண்ணுல அந்த ஒரு ஆவேசம், there will be that desire to want to see, and that was evident in him. And I said, my conversation is ready, as in the reason for my conversation is ready. Now I only need to fix a date, and that's how we are here today with an amazing artist, an amazing poet, and an amazing miracle maker. Isaikkavi Ramanan, please join me, sir. What a privilege. Improvise. At the end of today, I'll probably learn a few more gems. Okay, so thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
And I have no words to describe, so I will not use words. I will just go on with the flow of the conversation, the way it is appealing to me at the moment. One of the announcements I'd like to make is the format. Just I see a lot of new people here in the audience, so just so that you know, I'm timing this conversation, so we will go on for the next 50 odd minutes between me and Ramanan in conversation, where I'm in a sense eager to learn about what goes on in the mind. What is the soul of this man called Ramanan? What is the source of his being, Ramanan? Okay, that being, that is what I'm seeking to explore. So that will be about 50 minutes. Then we will open up the floor for you to interact with the guest, where you can ask questions. And closer to about 8:20 thereabouts, we will be done with the audience Q&A round, and then we will do a quick wrap and close this event at 8:29. So that's the format. To start off, I want to ask you, Ramanan, a deeply personal question. Okay, personal to me. I look at myself, thanks to the bankruptcy that Vani and I are going through, I look at myself as a student of life, okay? And what appeared to be inscrutable, what appeared to be completely dark, and இருட்டில் ஒன்றுமே புரியலை, ஒன்றுமே தெரியலை, அந்த ஒரு கட்டத்தை நாங்கள் தாண்டி வரும்போது இன்னைக்கு நான் அதை திரும்பி பார்க்கும்போது I see that I've learned a lot, I've evolved. In a way, you prefer to be known as a seeker, right? And I added the word eternal, okay? So that eternal seeker. So as I see it, நம்ம ரெண்டு பேர் பாதையும் ஒன்று தான், right? பாதை ஒன்று தான். இதில் ஒரு சீனியர் சீக்கர், ஒரு ஜூனியர் சீக்கருங்கிற இதெல்லாம் கிடையாது.
When you travel in the same boat, the seat number doesn't matter.
Absolutely, absolutely, so beautiful. So I wanted to ask you, in your experience, in the பாதையில் இருக்கிறதுல, what has been your experience about life, and why it does not matter whether somebody is traveling in the first row or somebody is traveling in the last row? Why it doesn't matter?
See, first my namaskarams to everyone. Yes, எனக்கு இந்த program ரொம்ப பிடிச்சதுக்கு காரணம், I don't have to prepare anything for it. In the August, I think I did about 14 programs already, 14 or 15. For the first time, I'm so relaxed. I don't have to prepare notes, look at them again, and come here. You are my notes. His questions are my notes. Very good. But we travel on the same path. There be no doubt about it. Whether you consider yourself a seeker or not, we all travel on the same path. But the journey differs from person to person. Even if you and Vani walk on the same path, hand in hand, your journey is individualist. That differs. But the joy is there is no junior or senior here. You're not going to create anything. You're only going to see what is already created. So how does it matter? Whether you visit New York today and I visit New York the day after, how does it matter? It is already there. We are not creating. Well, as simple as that.
Fantastic. This is the simplest explanation I have had. So in a way, the Kegel be more for validation of my own learnings. I've often felt that. But then when you see the world outside and the way people make intentions.
பெரிய ocean. எவ்வளோ myriad forms, life forms in that. And the other junior, senior. Whether it's a tiny fish or a blue whale, it cannot live out of the sea.
Isn't that the simplest understanding about life that many people miss? So, there's so many pretensions out there.
Pretensions.
And when you come on this path, you realize that all those are mere pretensions. And the true celebration of life is in this understanding. Yeah. So a lot of what we are discussing just now, what you just described about the small fish and the big whale and the ocean, isn't this what spirituality is all about?
No.
In the understanding? So I have another pointed question there. Why do people mix up spirituality and religion? Are they interconnected in any way in your view, or are they two different things?
I would put it like this. To be very honest, spirituality begins where religion ends. But religion need not have any conflict with spirituality. See, your social philosophies, then religious philosophies, and then there is spirituality. For social philosophies, you require you and the world alone. You and your fellow men of the world. When you talk about religion, you, the world, and God, third element comes. If it is spirituality, it is you and you only. you have to find the real you through this masquerading you somehow. So actually, I wouldn't say it's a stage we have to cross. The religion is nice. In old English, religion meant bondage. But in our parlance, madam means opinion. That's all. Not madam. Madam means opinion. Then religion was understood as a school of thought. You'll have to transcend thought. You'll have to transcend concepts, which you weave around you for your comfort. Ultimately, you get suffocated because when they become concretized concepts. So you try your best to wriggle out of it. There, your spiritual intent helps. Depend on yourself.
So beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you. Such a simple way of explaining it. Thank you so much. Again, kind of validates my thought. So I wanted to start my conversation with some, with some deeply personal questions that I've been itching to ask.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Very clear.
So I feel the way I look at it also is very similar. Spirituality is only about you, spirituality, as I've understood it, is that flowering of inner awareness. So it's within you. And religion, it makes bad spaghetti out of a good recipe. It is probably not by itself wrong, but the way it is practiced, the way it is thrown about, it's bandied about today, has separated us from what its original purpose was.
Yes, spirituality is also being bandied like this. Because they don't know what is a spirituality or religion.
Right.
So religion is for your comfort, order in social life, to add, to introduce some sweetness in the other way, in an otherwise mundane existence. See, there are two things, Davis. One is life, the other thing is living. What is life? Birth, growth, disease, decay, death. What's the big deal about it? But living is knowing yourself. Living is seeing you.
Phone on silence.
Living is knowing yourself. Living is trying to see you in others also. So that's why I would recall my masters what you would say, take life casually. Treat living seriously.
Take life casually, treat living seriously.
So that's a spirituality.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. This is amazing. And this kind of sets the tone for how we're going to progress today. It kind of sets the tone. But let's go back in time. So let me ask you a question about yourself now. The part about you that where you've been creating something for over 5 decades now is poetry. And I want to go back. So when I read up on you, I saw on your website that your first poem, perhaps the first expression of poetry in you, happened around the age of 17.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, all of us have written poetry. I'm sure many people have written poetry. But there's a difference between poets who are closet poets like me, who have done it once or twice and are too shy to talk about it, and those that go out and express themselves openly.
Okay.
So, உங்களுடைய inspiration to start writing poetry எப்படி வந்தது அந்த வயசுல? What was the inspiration? Do you remember your first poem? And what has helped you sustain in that direction?
See, I answer the second part first. When the bug gets you, it doesn't stop till you are finished. That's what poetry is for me. The first poem, I remember it happened in 1971, October.
Okay.
I don't know, I don't remember the exact words which happened, but it was like this. இன்றெனக்கு பிச்சை இல்லை எழுதிடவும் பகை இல்லை. I haven't received my arms today.
Okay.
So I can write anything today. that is how it was.
That was the opening line of your
Yeah,
poem.
opening.
Okay. Okay.
So then sustaining it was not a problem because I did not invite poetry, and I do not consider poetry as a talent which is acquired. Personally, I feel that when I stretched my hand before Parasakti for a morsel of food, she dropped me a pot of nectar.
Step
I
outside.
think this is getting very disturbing. Please, can somebody turn off the device? Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah. Can you say that again?
Can you step outside and fix it?
The problem, very good. See, sustaining this inspiration was not in my hands. Like poetry entering me was also not in my hands. I do not consider poetry as a talent. Maybe you can embellish your style of writing this and that. I don't think you cannot be a poet unless you are a born one.
So you treat it as a gift.
Gift, big gift. I stretched my hand before Parasakti for a mouthful of rice. Then she dropped in my hands a pot of nectar. I would say I didn't know how to handle that. I was too naive, too immature, too inexperienced to handle it. Today I'm fine.
There was a time in your life, and we talked about it over coffee also the other day, when you went through in the early stages a period of unemployment,
Yes.
rejection,
Yes.
because countless applications for jobs did not
Yes.
yield results.
Yes.
It must have been pretty painful, traumatic to handle all of that.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask, and I think in terms of timeline, we are talking about 73 to 77, somewhere in that
Yes.
range, right?
You are right.
So, அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு ஃபேஸ்ல pain was unavoidable,
Yes.
right? When it hurts when you are rejected. அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு சூழ்நிலையில did you continue to express yourself through poetry?
Of course.
அப்போ inspiration எப்படி இருக்குது உங்களுக்கு?
அப்போ எனக்கு I said 17 years I remember the moonlight, on a dark night. எங்க வீட்டுக்கு எதிர there was nothing much, it was an open space. அப்போ this poetry happened. Then I was gripped by Bharatiyar when I was 17. Even earlier I could say, but can I express myself freely?
Surely, sure.
I felt that his consciousness was, almost superimposed on mine. It kind of trance or whatever it is, something like that. Same time, the fervor of devotion to Kali, Parasakti in general, Kali in particular also. So overnight, I became fiery. I became a very ardent worshipper of Kali. That is how that journey started.
Oh, okay. So, ஒரு பக்கத்துல you were going through the trauma of being rejected.
Yeah. When it was, say I went through one hell after another. So I can even name hells. They come in packs. At that time, if this poetry was not there, this inspiration from Bharati and Parasakti were not there, I would have collapsed. I won't be here. You name any humiliation which you cannot imagine. I went through all that in my life, in my early stage. Today I'm immensely thankful to Parashakti for that. No, at that time, poetry continued to happen. It had no relevance to my situation.
Oh, it had no relevance. Okay.
So the lesson I draw today from that is that your happiness has no bearing on your external circumstances. You can be happy if you want to be so. So my poetry, it was there. And my growth as a human being, it was there. They were parallel. Today they merged.
They merged. Beautiful. I'm picking up a very beautiful word here. He said Bharadiyar gripped him. Now, many times in life, when we are clutching at the straws, when we are not knowing what's happening to us, we also experience these moments of the unseen hand, the presence of somebody coming and engulfing us, embracing us. Some people soak in its light, like Ramanan did.
Yes.
Some people are not able to kind of pick it up, connect with it, because they're struggling with the other side, which is the challenges of the moment, and so they miss it. But எல்லார் வாழ்க்கையிலும் இது இருக்கு. So it's not as if the trance happens to one person or to somebody specific or somebody sat under a bodhi tree. அப்படி கிடையாது. I think it's an invitation from the universe that I'm there, I'll take care of you. That's the way I see it.
Grace is always there.
Absolutely.
But grace is a process. You must learn how to tap it. And how do you tap it? Your passivity to the outer world activates grace. It's all about it.
Thank you. Again, you simplified something which appears so complex. When you use the word grace, it's not something that you can touch, you can feel, but then you say
it's a process.
It's a process. It's a process. So let me ask you, when you look back at that phase now, that phase would have taught you resilience.
Yes.
It would have taught you how to deal with pain, how to deal with rejection, all of that. If you were to look at the audience and talk about lasting a dark phase, when and everyone goes through their own crisis, so what would be one perspective that you would like to share with them by way of coping with a difficult phase, a dark phase in life?
See, one thing we have to learn is when you are on a travel through a desert, it could even be a picnic, and there is a sandstorm. The storm doesn't care whether you are a Bill Gates or a servant. Everyone has to do only one thing: lie on your belly, cover yourself till the storm blows over. The idea of fretting and fuming about what is happening. And what is so different? There are many people who suffer. At any point of time in your life, we have 100 reasons to be grateful to God. There are 130 million people in this world who have food only once a day. So we have no reason to complain. But when it happened at that time, I did not have this knowledge.
That's why I'm asking, in hindsight.
It hurt me.
Yeah.
It disturbed me greatly. But that is the process. Slowly you pick up, you learn. பட்ட காயங்கள் படும்போது வலித்தாலும் இன்று தொட்டு தடவினால் தழும்பெல்லாம் இனிக்கும். Something like learning your bicycle. If somebody says that he has never fallen, then be sure that he doesn't ride a bicycle.
So one is gratitude. Two is surrendering to the moment.
Yes.
Right, and going with the flow. So you basically explain the practical side of it.
Yes.
Right.
See, there is nothing unusual about our so-called suffering. That's what we should understand. That is the perspective we should learn.
Mm-hmm.
When it happens to us, it appears to be very big, very painful. Oh, much more painful things are happening to millions of our people. Other perspective.
Beautiful. I can relate to what he's saying, because today when somebody asks me, is there a regret you have, Avis? When people ask me, I actually have no regrets, but to answer the question I say, yeah, the bankruptcy ஒரு 10 வருஷம் முன்னாடி நடந்ததுன்னா I would have been a more evolved person 10 years ago. I mean, when we shared with Ramanan our story, see, we knew Ramanan, but he didn't know us in it. In one line, Vani and I told him that we are going through a very difficult phase, challenging phase, and the coffee meeting was great, his response was. And that amplifies the point that he just made. So, thank you.
History is not sequential. Maybe it is consequential. My master used to say that.
So let's move on, and so there was that phase of unemployment and hardship, and then you go and work with the Hindu for 27 years,
Yes.
27 long years. You rise in the ranks, you go on to lead a branch. Parallelly, on the other side, Anu and you get married, you raise a family. For a person, when you're speaking now, and I compare you with that man who must have been raising a family, working a 9 to 5 kind of job, trying to be put in a framework, a social framework, corporate framework. அதெல்லாம் பார்க்கும்போது my question to you is, wasn't there a conflict between who you were while being a family man or being a corporate warrior and your creative side? Was there a conflict? Did the creative process suffer during that phase? Was it put away on the back burner during that phase? How did you manage the two?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a conflict, because apart from being a poet and a seeker, there was another boon I was blessed with: joy of work. I realized very soon that it's not money or talents or sort of virudugal, pattam, all these things, they don't make you great or big. If you have found joy in work, and if you work physically also, that is dignity. So that was always, I slogged like mad while I was with the Hindu. No other person in my cadre would have done what I have done. I used to load parcels, I used to carry parcels, I have distributed paper. Can you imagine? I know how many dogs are there in every street. And dogs never loved newspapermen, I can tell you. So that is how. So conflict was not there, because the joy of work was always there. But it was what was difficult for me was this material engineering. I was not cut out from that.
Mm-hmm.
Nor is my wife. But we clicked. So that, and I'm very good at managing somebody else's business. So Hindu was very happy with me. That's all.
During that phase, did you also continue writing poetry?
Yeah.
So how would you divide your work between your
See, there are two phases in the Hindu for me. One was travel. I love travel. Seeing new places, seeing new faces, eating new kind of food, and visiting temples, historic places. And travel is the biggest trigger for your creative activity. And you travel alone as a sales representative. In some bus you will be traveling. And after Gandhi, I think I have walked quite a lot from village to village for the Hindu. So everywhere you go, it is full of messages. That is the beauty of divinity. It's full of beautiful messages. If only you could, you have keen ears, you can listen to them. And this poetry is nothing more than trying to recall a bit of what you have heard from the ether.
You say it better than Osho. Poetry is nothing but an effort to recall what you have heard or what you have been made to hear. Right?
That's why I'm very happy to be a poet, a Tamil poet. That is my only identity.
We'll come to that. I have a specific question on that. We'll come to that. But I want to pick on a beautiful phrase that he heard, that he used, and I'm hoping that many people who watch this video. So all of you, once the video link is up, please share it. because he talked about something that's completely missing in society today, the joy of work. Do people go to earn money, to please their bosses, to achieve high performance targets and succumb to stress, or do they go to work to be happy doing what they're doing? I'm sure that there are conflicts sometimes between who you are and what you're doing. That apart, I think everyone should bless themselves, consider it a blessing that they have a job to do,
Yes.
that they have a talent to express, that they have an opportunity to express. Yeah, that's what you mean by joy of work.
Yes. Another thing, work is the best cleanser, in my, not my opinion, in my experience. Work is the best cleanser. And unfortunately, whether you like it or not, human consciousness demands constant cleaning up.
Yes,
Because,
yes.
knowingly or unknowingly, we acquire a lot of junk. So we have to clean it up. Work is the best. I'm telling you, last night was one of the happiest moments for me. My little granddaughter stayed with us, and my wife asked me to just make some hot, warm, or lukewarm water and put it in a flask. I cannot describe the happiness which it gave, because I felt I was serving an angel.
Ah.
She doesn't even know that I'm making it for her.
Adilor job. So work is not only about remunerative work, but work is the opportunity to serve. That's the way you're seeing
Work is dignity.
it. Work is dignity, and there is great joy in it.
Because this Srishti is nothing but work. Come on, it's continuous work which is going on. How can you be otherwise? You may not be thrown out of it, but there is nothing like getting thrown out of this place.
So earlier on in the conversation, you talked about Parasakti, and I have a question there. Links back to the joy of work and this whole celebration of creation. Okay, see, all believers, in my opinion, fall under three categories. Okay, the first category is through social conditioning, which is God fearing. Okay, sin, punishment, retribution. இதெல்லாம் தான் முதல்ல நம்மளுக்கு சொல்லி கொடுக்குறாங்க. The second category, அதை தாண்டி நம்ம வந்துட்டோம்னா, you become God loving, and you understand the compassion of the Creator. Okay, and the third is the God seeking. அது ரொம்ப rarity, which is எனக்கு I want to experience that divinity அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு urge, ஒரு hunger, ஒரு தாகம். You seem to fall under the third category. And even in your first poem, you said that morsel was actually a pot of nectar.
Yes.
That's too evolved a statement for a 17-year-old to make, right? So my specific question to you is, how do you see the divine? Who is this Parasakti to you? And why do you believe that you have skipped the stages of God fearing and God loving and being able to reach the state of seeking?
Very simple. Bharati says, Mundu nikkindra tholile Sakti. He says, the work which presents itself before you, that is Parasakti. I enjoyed that definition. And fearing God, how will you be? How can you ever be afraid of your love? At the most, you can be wary.
But not afraid.
Not afraid. And it's love, as you rightly pointed out. My Parasakti is nothing but love. And that love is not a mere emotion which we understand. It's all encompassing. If the mother beats me up, it is for my own good. If my mother plants a kiss on my forehead, it's her way of appreciating me. If the mother makes my heart go dry and I'm incapable of penning even a word, she's teaching me a lesson. And if my mother showers poem after poem, song after song, as it happened this morning, she is in a good mood. That's all about it. So, Parasakti is all encompassing. So you have to include everything to understand Parasakti, including ignorance. You can't throw away darkness, ignorance out of parasakti. Combine everything. Put inclusive. She is all inclusive. Put everything together, then you will understand parasakti. But what am I today? Am I a saint? No way. Maybe I'm a saint in the making. I'm a very ordinary human being. I'm less than average in a million things. But I'm extremely fortunate. I'm not special in any way, but I'm very fortunate. I'm richer than the richest people. Because I understood parasakti. And I owe this understanding to her only. Not through tapas I achieved this. Not by reading books. Not by rote. But by her sheer grace. You love her, she loves you. Love is the language. That's all. And you say you worship parasakti and you won't love your fellow men. What kind of parasakti you know?
This is beautiful. So, love is the language, and you are the instrument.
Yes.
Because at every point you are saying it's parasakti who is giving you every experience.
Yes.
And shaping you and molding you.
Yes.
So there is complete surrender there. And enjoying that process.
Yeah. One a good thing about parasakti, one advantage is, see, it's an evolutionary process for the seeker. What do I do to surrender to her? You don't have to worry about it. She will ensure that you surrender yourself to her. If that link of love is there, she will very deftly know, very deftly, dexterously, she will cut things from you. Even right from food, things which you used to hog, your health will be all right, but suddenly you may not like that kind of food anymore. Then I know that this mischievous dark woman has done this.
He gives her a gender, he gives her a name. To me, I've learned that life is the all-encompassing creator. And so I surrender in the same way to life. And we all call it by different names, but my whole process is love the life that you've been given and go with the flow.
See, what is this creation? Is it not an expression of love?
Yes.
Why creation? As far as I have understood from our Mahans, the creation is only for your evolution of every living being, every life form. So can that be a better expression of love than creation? If that is so, then every one of us must be carrying that nucleus of divine love. Is it not so? In what way we are different? How can anyone be superior or inferior?
Rumi says this, I'm reminded of Rumi. Rumi says this, in every atom, the universe is in an ecstatic action.
No, yes.
That's the divine seed of love that you're talking about.
Yeah, I recall the beautiful intro you are giving. For the first time, I wanted somebody to continue the introduction. It was fascinating listening to you. Say if you know parasakti, then you will experience this. Every drop is as vast and as deep as the very ocean.
Every drop.
Every drop is as vast and as deep as the very ocean itself.
I want to continue this sequence of questioning.
I do not know whether I'm answering you properly.
No, you are. I think we're going
I'm
perfectly
just
fine.
keeping my heart open. I don't have to it's a doorless house.
We're doing great. We're doing great in terms of time, in terms of flow. So I want to continue this sequence and still dwell on the divine. A person who understands the divine, why does he call himself? And on his website, he talks about being consciously mad and extremely anxious. Okay? So my question is about that phrase. Why do you define yourself as consciously mad and extremely anxious, A, and B, in your life therefore, how and why did the Guru come in?
Okay.
And so talk a little bit about the Guru.
Beautiful. And first I must thank you for this question.
I'm just a student at your feet.
No.
I'm learning. I had those questions looking at your website, so I'm
I
asking
told you it's a house without a door, and you have quietly walked in. Consciously mad, because you reach a stage in your spiritual journey, you do see the difference between you and others. That is also there. The difference is what you know, that whatever you think you are not. And you cannot shake off this, what you are not, immediately. That is being consciously mad.
Okay.
See, suddenly there is a clarity, and this clarity is looking at things which are far removed from clarity. And that is what you have been thinking all this time, to be you. So this awakening is not a very pleasant thing, I tell you. I can assuredly tell you. Shobana Ravi used to say, "Come hither, my boy, I'll teach you grief, the ecstatic grief, which only poets know," she would say. Very beautifully said. So when the awakening happens, longing, pining, curiosity, a terrible anxiety to get over everything, but it doesn't happen. So you have to wait. So at that time, there is a conflict, not between you and the world, between you and the you. Say, what is spirituality? Between what you think you are and what others think you are. Find out what exactly you are. Apo, you become consciously mad. You are not at peace with yourself. See, when you were caught in this materialistic world, when you did not have a thought about this spirituality, you seem to be okay. When this awakening happens, and when you are able to look at the other things, oh, this is not it, then there is a struggle, which many materialistic people do not have.
Correct.
But that is how it happens. You cannot deliver a child without the pain. So then evolution, then anxiety. But the thing is, there is an unwritten cardinal rule. Unless you drop your anxiety, you cannot proceed further in spirituality. If you are not curious, you don't enter the path of spirituality. But if you continue to be terribly anxious, you cannot have a good journey. Learning. So consciously mad, and this anxiety, this is gone. What was the second part?
Second part was about your guru, but I just want to. He spoke so beautifully about the whole idea of spirituality and its internalization. And I want to just put it in context, and I'm just getting this urge to share. When the bankruptcy hit us, grief, guilt, anger, and we were struggling with all of that. And when the clarity hit us, I realized I am not bankrupt. My situation is one of bankruptcy.
Yes.
And there was huge conflict.
Oh, yes.
I am not bankrupt. இது என்னுடைய பொறுப்பே கிடையாது. நான் தான் எல்லாத்தையும் விட்டு போறேன். அந்த கிளாரிட்டி வந்துருது. பட் அது போய் வெளியில சொல்ல முடியுமா? 179 பேருக்கு 5 கோடி ரூபாய் கொடுக்கணும்னு இருக்கும்போது will anybody accept it? Huge conflict. Why isn't the world getting it? Arey, I'm not running away. I'll still repay. But it's so simple. And the conflict ரொம்ப பிரமாதமா சொன்னாரு சார். Thank you. This is the first time somebody has helped me understand that. My second question was, in the consciously mad நம்ம இருக்கும்போது, and everyone has that moment of madness, I guess, that phase of madness and that anxiety. உங்க வாழ்க்கையில ஒரு குரு வந்தார். சத்குரு சிவானந்த மூர்த்தி அவர்கள், who you call your refuge.
Yes.
ஏன் எப்படி அவர் வந்தார், and ஏன் நீங்க அவரை ஒரு ரெஃப்யூஜா பார்க்க ஆரம்பிச்சீங்க? I mean, how did that experience go for you?
Okay. See, at a very, very early stage in my life, I was convinced that I needed a guru to take me there. Somehow it became clear that it cannot happen with my personal effort. And as my luck would have it, or my vasanas were such, that I went through a series of wrong addresses in spiritual journey, one after the other. You cannot imagine the wrong addresses, knocking at wrong doors, and getting knocked down repeatedly. Ultimately, we reached a stage. My wife was not a mere witness, she was a participant in all this journey. When I had met my guru, I never knew that he would be my guru. Because I had to complete my round of wrong addresses also. Then I sat under a tree, a Parijata tree, I remember, in Visakhapatnam. I was wondering, what is that I am seeking? And why is it being refused? Did I seek money? No. Did I seek fame? No. Did I seek this, that? Nothing. What I am seeking is the vision of truth. The truth about myself. What is called God. And how could that be denied? You tell me. Then poetically some flowers dropped. Then as I came in, as I was about to open my mouth, it was my wife who said, why not we go and meet that old gentleman? Because of all the people whom we have met, only he sounded clear. That is how we went back to him. And this gentleman would not open up. He would never make any effort to impress upon anyone. So he is just available. If you are up to it, you can avail. That is how it was. So we were playing ping pong for a while. I was very hesitant to open up because of my bad experiences. I was not sure whether this also would turn out to be one more wrong address. In some conversation, suddenly he said something. I think your energy is disturbed, Kundalini is disturbed, something like that. Can I have a chat with you? I said, come on in, he said. He's brilliant English he used to speak. So that's how it started. And only one sentence I will tell you. He said, I was 40 when I met him. All the paths you have walked so far, you belong to none of them. And none of them belongs to you. And he looked at me straight, waiting for my response. How would it be? I was such a fiery aspirant. Every day I was seeking to know the divinity, despite very hard work. My goodness, 15 hours, 16 hours, I used to work. 18 hours I worked. Slog, I broke my back literally. And this man tells me that you don't belong to any of these parts, and none of these parts belong to you. It was something like an elephant entering a china shop. I waited for a moment, a very agonizing moment it was. Then took a breath, touched his feet, bent before he touched his feet. Sir, I will start afresh. He said, that's the spirit, he said. That's all.
So that's how the journey with him began.
And he only let his love tackle me, nothing else. Love, simple, unconditional, neutral love.
There are a lot of parallels here. Around 40 is when I was connected with my guru. And what I've learned, and you corroborate that, the world understands a guru as matted hair, an ashram, and all of that. And many of us think that is you need that visiting card, you need that label. And that's not true. The truest sense is gu, ru, the darkness is gu, and ru is the remover, the dispeller of the darkness. And it often begins with an innocuous conversation, which leads to more questions. And I think anybody who's asking you to ask more questions and discover yourself in the process is the real guru. This is the way I
always
have seen
encouraged
it.
conversation.
And it happens through a lot of conversations. The other parallel, of course, I see is you and I are equally blessed because you have Anu and I have Vani, and that's a blessing that I've always celebrated, because there is that good running between the wickets. So we also know that the other batsman will go on even if one of us gets out. So that's another parallel I could see. But in this phase of working on one side and beginning to want to be free, be spiritually empowered and free therefore, you actually took a very physical decision to quit the Hindu. After 27 years, you took premature retirement.
No, resignation.
Resignation. There was no retirement. There was a resignation, right? And you did that at the most vulnerable time of anybody's career, which is in the 40s. 50, when you were 50.
Yes.
Okay, which was in 2005 somewhere.
2005.
Yeah. So, for 13 years ago. So, you took that decision. எங்கேருந்து சார் இந்த தைரியம் வந்தது? எதுக்காக? What was the driver for that? What were you hoping to do with the rest of your life?
Yeah. See, this inner call was getting louder and louder. See, even practically speaking, I did not see myself getting bigger in career where I would earn large sums of money. I'm not cut out for it. I know my design. I'm not cut out for it. And I can't be minding somebody else's business eternally. I can be an eternal seeker, but I cannot be eternally managing someone's business. So that was also clear. And it requires a combination of madness and courage to take such a decision. Fortunately, I had both.
Where did the second one come from? In your definition, how does courage come in a practical sense when you need a paycheck at the end of every month? And
I had walked the streets without a penny in my hand, even when I was employed. I never cared. I was singing in praise of Parasakti and walked. My friend Subbu and I used to walk from Adyar to Gandhi Nagar and back. In rain, singing her glory. Then we just come into a tea shop, have a sip of tea. We'll sip it in such a way that the whole world will hear it. Then we'll walk in the rain again. So, being without money, it gave me a curiosity. Let me see how it is.
that's fine for you, but how does Anu fit into this?
Yeah, Anu was quite cooperative. Anu means one who is with you. The word
so beautiful, so beautiful.
Anu Bhavam, that which is persistent.
That's a great blessing. That's a great blessing.
Otherwise, it couldn't have been possible. And she didn't have any big desires in material life. All that she wanted was books, mostly second-hand books, and some food. She didn't have fancy for a big wardrobe or this. Suited me. God gives you like that one. Or otherwise, he could even give you a tyrant of a woman as your wife, so that you are chastened, you are well formed, you are tested, your mental is tested. So for me, I didn't require that. So God gave me Anu.
What a nice way of looking at it. I think the puzzles of or the pieces of the puzzle always fall in place.
There is 1 minute, I must add my children also. When I took that decision, they were young boys out of college. Not yet out of college. I discussed with them also. But do what you want to do. I think your
They said that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Parasakti will take care. Anu also said so. So my former colleagues, even the top-notch people in the Hindu, used to ask me, do you regret your decision? I said, yes, I could have done it a little earlier.
I think the decision that he voluntarily took was forced upon us. And I therefore bear testimony on the other side, corroborating everything that he said. That money is important, no doubt, in the real world, but you can live without it, and you can live happier without it. That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
I think that
What is the right amount of wealth? Can any one of us tell me? So, which salary is sufficient? Can any employee tell me? You give me $1 million. In 10 minutes, I will find it inadequate. Water finds its level. Somewhere we have to stop and take a good look at ourselves and our needs and desires. எது போதும் சொல்லுங்க.
Hmm.
சொல்லவே முடியாது. I'll tell you what is the ideal wealth.
साई इतना दीजिए जा मैं कुटुंब समाज में भी भूखा ना रहूं साधु न भूखा जा.
It sounds nice, I don't really understand. So, what is ideal wealth? In my opinion, you should not be apprehensive about what would happen to your wealth if you lock your home. And if at all you lose that also, you should not be worried about how am I going to live. That is the ideal wealth.
I would interpret it as
பயம் இருக்கக்கூடாது, கவலை இருக்கக்கூடாது.
கவலை இருக்கக்கூடாது.
இது என்ன ஆயிடுமோங்கிற பயம், இது இல்லைன்னா நான் என்ன ஆவேணுங்கிற கவலை, இது ரெண்டும் இருக்கக்கூடாது. அதான் ஐடியா.
That's a very, very, very profound explanation you gave. My inference there is an old Ilayaraja song, which is Maratha Vechana Thanni Uttum.
Yeah.
So you have a life and just live it
நான் இப்படி சொல்றேன்.
with the acceptance of.
சொத்து பத்து ஒண்ணு எனக்கு இல்ல, நான் சொகத்து கொன்னும் குறவில்ல. சொத்து பத்து ஒண்ணு எனக்கு இல்ல, ஆனா சொகத்து கொன்னும் குறவில்ல. என்ன பத்த போட்டு வறுத்தெடுத்தா பழகி போச்சு வலி இல்ல. பத்த போட்டு வறுத்தெடுத்தா பழகி போச்சு வலி இல்ல. மொத்த உசுரையும் காதுல சின்ன மூட்டை கட்டி போட்டுட்டேன். என் மொத்த உசுரையும் காதுல சின்ன மூட்டை கட்டி போட்டுட்டு ஒரு சத்தம் இல்லாம கிடக்குறேன், சாலை இல்லாம நடக்கிறேன், இன்னும் முழுசு நம்புறேன். அவ்வளவுதான்.
Thank you. I think it came very timely and at the most appropriate. We don't need to say anything more. I think the verse says it all. So that brings me to the you know, earlier you talked about your identity, and we discussed this over coffee also the other day. Why do you believe that the identity of poet is the only identity you would like to retain among the many talents that you have? Many people would like to proclaim after their name a list of degrees that they have.
Yeah.
But you are saying I'll drop all of that and the only thing is poet. Why is there that connection?
There are two things. One is, if you are a seeker on the spiritual path, you must consciously unsheath yourself. You must drop all these identities. Otherwise, you cannot be free. Number one. The other things, all these things which you mentioned, they are talents. They are acquired. Whatever you acquire demands maintenance. and whatever you acquire has a date of expiry. But a boon doesn't expire.
Definitely.
Okay.
Why boon? Even if it is arms, it doesn't expire. It becomes a part of my being. Poetry to me is the boon which Parasakti bestowed upon me at birth. It will never leave me. So when the body burns in the fire, no, till then I will be a poet. Tamil Kavi. The original identity.
And that's the only one that you want.
One more thing. Another part to this question is, who is a poet? A poet is closer to the seer, Rishi. When Master puts it very nicely, God is writing the story of creation, and the poet is keeping a hand on his shoulder and bearing over. That is the class of a poet. You forget his body of work, what he sang, what he wrote, but what he saw, what he experiences, and that can never be conveyed in words.
For all your profundity, something that strikes me now, for all your profundity, are you all enjoying the conversation? Is it simple and profound at the same time? For all your profundity, don't you think you have not got what you deserve in terms of recognition and fame? Has the thought ever crossed your mind that you probably deserve a lot more by way of reach, by way of taking your message forward on one side, and by way of recognition on the other side? In the real world, people grapple with these issues. How do you deal
Get
with
to
it?
your question. My sincere feeling is, God has been too kind on me. People have been very charitable towards me. So there is no regret. Another thing I have realized is, if you have this craving for recognition, you are cramped. It's a recognition. This craving for recognition is a sure trap. It's a killer of a trap on the path of spiritual journey. Because you should submit yourself totally to her. So whatever I get, it's what my master wants me to get. Whatever I don't get, it is his sankalpa. You call it master or parasakti, it is the same to me. So where is the, and I'm able to think of divinity. I'm able to sing its glory. Can that be a better recognition? Can that be a better recognition? And I sing before people. They're happy. Something touches them. See, I'll tell you. One more minute I will take.
Please.
In a restaurant, at a restaurant in Bangalore, my colleague and I, we were talking. Tough days in the Hindu. But that colleague said to us, sing something for me. I'm feeling very tired of this and that. So I said something. From behind somebody said, aha, sabash, Malay. We don't know who it was. Then that gentleman came around. You know what he said, Davis? Sorry, it was so nice, he said. he was apologizing for intruding into our conversation. Sorry. Immediately I said, Varanamayiram kettadillai, Pudu Vanna Pattadegal Devayillai, Taraga Mandiram kettadu pol Thambi Talayasaipadu Podumada. ஊரறிய புகழ் தேவையில்லை, குயில் ஒன்று குடித்தனம் செல்வதில்லை, வேரை பிடித்தது போல தம்பி குரல் விக்கி திணறுதல் போதுமடா. நாச்சந்தியில் சிலை நட்டு வைத்து பல நாட்களுக்கு ஒரு முறை மாலையிட்டு இந்த ஊர்க்குருவி காகம் எச்சமிட்டு கடல் உப்பு கருப்பினில் சிக்குவேனோ. மார்பு துடிக்குது வார்த்தையிலே, இந்த மண்டை சுடலுது போதையிலே என்று வார்த்தை தடுமாறி தம்பி விழி 7 வண்ணம் படிச்சிடல் போதுமடா. அன்றி வாரணமாயிரம் கேட்டதில்லை, புது வண்ணப்பட்டாடைகள் தேவையில்லை, தாரக மந்திரம் கேட்டது போ தம்பி தலையசைப்பது போதுமடா. டெய்ஸ் எல்லாமே மாரியம்மன் கோயில் எல்லா பீச்சில் சுண்டல்காரன் கூட இல்லை எங்கேயாவது மரத்தடியில் ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் வீட்டில் இல்லை எங்கள் வீட்டில், அவ்வளோதான். அதோட பெரிய மேடை என்ன?
You answered my next question actually through the song, which is, what is your idea of happiness? And that was my next question. What would make you completely deliriously happy? And in a way you answered it, but you still want to give us another perspective?
If I continue to be loving unconditionally, I am happy. If I am honest, I am happy. If I am happy about others' happiness, I am happy. If I can contribute something, a little, a pinch, I am happy. See, there are only 2 routes to happiness. One thing is, declare that you will be happy. Come what may, go what must. That should be there. Happiness is not a quality. It is a state which you attain through sankalpa. Sankalpa is decided thought. Through sankalpa, you can be happy. The other way is to be of some service to others and not noticing it at all. That makes you happy. Like the lukewarm water I made for my little princess. She is not aware of it. And I'm so happy. I felt so happy. I'm grateful to my wife for that.
So there is a big message there. He's saying that the word deserve is what many of us cling on to. That I deserve this. Now deservance or seeking deservance can often make you unhappy because you're not going to get everything that you think you deserve. But the word deserve is impossible to construct without the word serve in it. And that's what he's referring to. When you give yourself unconditionally, offer yourself, and in his parlance it is to Parasakti. It is his offering is to a higher energy, to Parasakti. And in our parlance it can be whatever. But the bottom line is be of use, be serving, and that gives you happiness.
Keep
right?
working.
Keep the joy of work.
Joy of work.
The joy of work. So one last question, and then we'll go to the audience for their questions. The last question is, this is happiness as we all should know it, experience it, and live it. But there are many signals that come and interfere. The way society functions, the way people understand or misunderstand and interpret us, the pulls and pressures of everyday living, the economic side of life, and all of that. How do you, Ramanan, live a life where these signals don't interfere with you? And what do you do should they interfere?
See, very, very
When these frequencies
yeah,
interfere.
it is there. Right? There is an inner life, there is an outer life. But there is only one person who is living both.
Exactly.
So he cannot be a different person. Maybe he can respond differently. See, all that you have to do is anchor well within yourself. It is something like getting hooked onto that Tampura Shruti inside. Then sing the language of this world. There won't be any apostrophe. And that Tampura is important. If you think of the divinity only when you sit for meditation or do for puja, never. You should be able to do it in a Sunday among the Monday. And then only it stays. So another thing is all these things which are happening, they are only peripheral. They should not affect. I'll tell you an example which my master used to say. Between you and me there is space, is it not? Yeah. There are mosquitoes. Yes, sir. Do you see any dent in the space caused by mosquitoes? Treat them like that. So pulls and pressures are there. When you ask for a change of your circumstances, you are investing in failure. When you seek a way to grow taller than your circumstances, you are evolving. So.
Beautiful. We were just told
Correct.
what the scriptures talk about, what the Gita talks about, be in this world and yet be above it. What the Bible talks about, be in the world but not of it. And he just gave the very practical, very reasonable perspective for that, so that it doesn't remain just a scriptural perspective and can be actualized. Thank you so much. Fantastic. I think we're going great on time. I have time for a couple of questions. I'm still timing it. The first hand has gone up here. Keep your question to a question, not to an observation. Any celebration or love for Ramanan can be shown after the program.
Yeah. Can you give me a 2-minute break?
Okay. I'll hold the audience.
Yeah.
No problem. So let me share here. So we have one question here. Who's going to ask the next question? We'll have time exactly for 2 questions, and then we'll need to wind up. So who's any second question? Just so that we are cued in. Anybody with the second question? Okay, we'll go with the first question. So let me share with you what I'm. One of the things that I picked up, but for want of time I was trying to compress it, which is when he talks about being in the world and being above it, the factors that make all of us crippled, that pin us down, are 3 things. One is worry, which manifests itself in different forms, but worries are constant. As long as you have thoughts in your head, worries are going to be there. So, through the process of the tambura anchoring that you talked about, the Shruti Seradu, you learn to be non-worrying. Worriye irukkakoodadunu mudiyadu. So you learn the art of being non-worrying. The second is, நம்ம எடுத்த ஆக்ஷனுக்கு எல்லாம் நம்ம எதிர்பார்க்குற மாதிரி ரிசல்ட் வந்துடணும் அப்படின்னு ஒரு எக்ஸ்பெக்டேஷன். அது வரலனாக்கா ஒரு ஃப்ரஸ்ட்ரேஷன் வந்துடும். So the second thing you learn is the art of being non-frustrated. And the third is the art of being non-suffering. So suffering எதனால வருதுனாக்கா pain doesn't come with suffering. Pain comes alone. But suffering comes when you ask why this pain in the first place. So learning the art of being non-worrying, non-frustrated and non-suffering. Our Tambura Shruti sir பத்தி சொன்னாரு. What Vani and I have discovered is இது முடியும், கவலை படாமல் வாழலாம், கவலை இல்லாமல் வாழ முடியாது, கவலைகள் வரும், but don't pick them up. எல்லாம் நினைச்சது சாதிக்க முடியாது, so don't be frustrated. And why me? அந்த கேள்வியே கேட்கக்கூடாது. This is it, this is my life. So when you learn to be non-worrying, non-frustrated and non-suffering, you learn the art of being happy despite your circumstances. That is really what I picked up from Ramanan's point of view of anchoring within and having that Shruti matching with his inner Shruti. So I filled in for you, okay?
Sorry.
No, absolutely no problem. Raj, your
Yeah,
question.
My question is, you have such a beautiful thoughts, but who doesn't understand Tamil, you have that your poems translated in English or something?
No.
Because it's a big thing if you have that in other languages.
That's
Otherwise,
why, Raj, this conversation, that's why,
Yeah, true, but I think
you know,
it has to-
I wrote a small book in English, Chips Down, Chin Up. When,
especially you have
when we had to borrow for buying rice for our next meal, I wrote that.
chips down,
Chin
chin
up.
up. Okay.
Yeah. Especially you have also good in English. I think just to understand, not the
So
literal-
there somebody seconding my point of view. In the morning, he had put up a Facebook post saying, I don't know how I'm going to fare in English, something on that side. But next question, one question. Yes, Diva.
Raman, I have a very, very major fan of yours from US who has passed on a question to me, asked you.
Okay.
And I'm going to record and then send it across to you.
Okay.
I'll just read the question to you. A question from me: when does and what it takes a wandering artist become a full-time artist, or is it even needed? Can a wandering artist be happy just being a wanderer? For example, being an unknown Kannadasan fan, I'm still very happy just listening and promoting what Kavya has thought.
An artist will be happy. You have to record.
Yes, yeah, please.
An artist can be happy if he is wandering. See, you can seek the destination, but you should never be under the misconception that you have reached it. And when you are clear about the destination, walking towards it, that gives you the best joy. Once you merge with it, you will not even know. So keep walking merrily. Do not look at somebody else's pace. Discover your own pace and keep walking. Each one to his stride.
Such a beautiful way of saying, just keep walking. And that question, Kaveri, made wandering artist immortal, right? Okay, Krishnan, your question.
I don't want a question.
Hmm.
I want him to recite the last lines of Bharatiyar for those who have not seen the play.
Oh,
Okay,
If it is not too much.
we can go with it. We have 3 minutes,
okay. Yeah.
2 to 3 minutes. Is that what it will take?
No, it will take more, but I can cut it off.
Okay, I have 3 minutes to give you. If you would like to, that'll be a nice way to sign off, because then I have to do a quick wrap and close it. So you can take the.
Climax of Bharatiyar, explain, sir. Climax of Bharatiyar, he is about to die.
Yeah. For the Yoga Siddhi, I'll tell you the highest state a man can achieve is Yoga Siddhi. That's the title of the poem. Where he is on the verge of merging with the divinity. There are no identities. There is not even you. But there, he fervently asks Parasakti boons for the country. So I'll tell you only 2 or 3 stanzas from it. தேடிச் சோறு நிதம் தின்று பல சின்னஞ்சிறு கதைகள் பேசி மனம் வாடித் துன்பமிக உழன்று பிறர் வாடப் பல செயல்கள் புரிந்து நரை கூடிக் கிழப்பருவம் எய்தி கொடும் கூற்றுக்கிரையனப்பின் மாயும் பல வேடிக்கை மனிதரைப் போலே நானும் வீழ்வேன் என்று நினைத்தாயோ என்னை சில வரங்கள் கேட்டேன் இவை நேரே இன்று எனக்கு தருவாய் இந்த முன்னை பழவினைகள் எல்லாம் இனி மூளாதழிந்திடுதல் வேண்டும் இனி என்னை புதிய உயிராக்கி என ஏதும் கவலையறச் செய்து மதி தன்னை மிகத் தெளிவு செய்து என்றும் சந்தோஷம் கொண்டிருக்கச் செய்வாய் தோளை வலிவுடையதாக்கி உடற்சோர்வும் பிணிப்பலவும் போக்கி அறிவாளைக் கொண்டு பிளந்தாலும் கட்டுமாறா உடலுறுதி தந்து சுடர் நாளை கண்டதோர் மலர்வோர் ஒளி நன்னித் திகழ் முகம் தந்து மத வேலை வெல்லும் முறை கூறி தவ மேன்மை கொடுத்தருளல் வேண்டும் எண்ணும் காரியங்கள் எல்லாம் வெற்றியேறப் புரிந்தருளல் வேண்டும். தொழில் பண்ண பெருநிதியம் வேண்டும், அதில் பல்லோர் துணை புரிதல் வேண்டும். சுவை நண்ணும் பாட்டினோடு தாளம் மிக நன்றாய் உடத்தழுந்தல் வேண்டும். பல பண்ணில் கோடி வகை இன்பம் நான் பாடும் திறன் அடைதல் வேண்டும்.
Thanks, Krishnan, for suggesting this. This is the second time I'm hearing it, and I never even thought the first time I heard it that I'd be sitting next to you and you would be doing this in a private setting. Thank
One
you.
thing to Kaveri, an artist remains an artist only when he is wandering.
So I'm going to do a wrap, but before that, I'm going to invite Kaveri to come and present a small memento from wandering artist to Ramanan, to another wandering artist. Yeah. So Kaveri, please come forward. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kaveri, who runs this beautiful space, wandering artist. You may need to ascend again. So it's been a fabulous conversation, and I was thinking for how I can summarize this whole experience of being in conversation with Ramanan. To me, this was a validation of many experiences that I've been through, and Vani has been through them with me. We have talked about it at length, and many of them were clarified with your perspectives. So, as he rightly said, the road is one. There are no qualifications for getting on that road because this is the road that everyone has to come. But we come through different experiences, different triggers, and there is no senior or junior here. Everyone is soaking and bathing in the same beauty, in the same grace. That's something that I'm taking away. But I'm actually going to lean on another favorite of mine, which is Osho, who, to summarize this conversation, who defines a spiritual person. So Osho defines a spiritual person as someone whose life is a work of art. The spiritual person is one whose life is a work of art, whose mind, body, and consciousness are in deep harmony. Just to see that life is a joy. It's fragrant and it's beautiful. It's that joy, it's that fragrance, it's that beauty that I personally experienced being in conversation with you, Ramanan. And so thank you for coming here, and thank you for being with us. Thank you, all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Keep coming to the Wandering Artist to learn, to share, and to be at the Artist Soul. The next edition of Artist Soul features on the 6th of October, features critic, comedian, commentator, and theatre artist, actor, radio jockey. He's many things. So I asked him, "You're so many things, are you a jack of all trades?" And he said, "No, I'm a joke of all trades." And we'll be presenting to you Bosky Unplugged next month on the 6th of October. Do join us. Thank you. Thank you so much.